We've cracked Eden. We've exposed the bloodline. Now it's time to step off the map into the wilderness where angels fear to tread. We're going deeper now, past morality, past myth, into forbidden symbols, spiritual rebellion, and the flame that doesn't ask permission to burn. This is where Cain stops being a man and becomes a mark. A force, a path. So God marks Cain, not to punish him but to protect him. Let that sink in. He's just committed the first murder in human history, right? But God doesn't kill him. No, he brands him, curses him to wander, but also says, anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance sevenfold. That's not exile. That's untouchable status. That's divine immunity. And that mark, oh, that's no simple tattoo. Across centuries, mystics, occultists, and scholars have speculated what it really was. And the answers? They read like a symphony of symbolism. Some say it was a horn, the physical sign of his devilish origin. Others say it was a jewel embedded in his forehead, one that fell from Lucifer's crown during the Celestial Rebellion. There's the theory it was the red serpent sigil, the alchemical mark of divine rebellion, or the Tau cross, symbol of transformation, Saturn, and death. Some even say it was the six-rayed star, the hexagram, a symbol of perfect balance between above and below, spirit and matter. You know what that is? Alchemy. But the deepest interpretation? The mark was internal, a psychic brand, a spark, the awakening of the divine fire in human consciousness. It's the yearning, that unbearable itch, the insatiable hunger for power, truth, transcendence. That's the true mark of Cain, a kind of metaphysical scar that forces you to evolve or be destroyed. This is the path of the adept, the one who says, I will not kneel, I will transform. But there's a price, because once you're marked, you're outside the system, you're cast out. You have no divine safety net, no protection, no forgiveness, only your will. Now we shift gears deep into the abyss, because Cain, Samael, and Lilith, they don't just exist in one myth system. In the Qliphoth, the dark side of the Kabbalistic tree, they form an initiatory trinity. Lilith rules Gamaliel, the sphere of lunar seduction and illusion. Samael is the shadow serpent, ruling Samael, the force of wrath and poison. And Cain? He's tied to Thagirion, the black sun, the infernal heart of ego, will, and power. This is where left-hand path initiation begins. It's not about worship. It's about becoming the source of your own light. Cain isn't just a rebel. He's an archetype of self-made godhood. Which brings us to the Antichrist. No, not the cartoonish villain. The real esoteric archetype. The one who doesn't destroy out of malice, but who rejects the divine order to build his own. He corresponds to the same sphere, Thagirion. He is Cain's heir, the one who completes the serpent's promise. You shall be as gods. This is the radical alchemy of the left-hand path. Not salvation through grace, but through force. Not reunion with God, but replacement of God. The serpent never lied. It simply offered the harder truth. Now let's talk Gnosticism. The Cainites weren't just biblical descendants. They were a real Gnostic sect, alive in the 2nd century CE. And guess what? They flipped the whole script. To them, the God of the Old Testament, a tyrant, a false creator, a demiurge. The serpent, the liberator. Cain, the first martyr of truth. Judas Iscariot, a hero. Mary Magdalene over the Virgin Mary. Sodomites, Esau, Korah, all redeemed. To the Cainites, the villains of the Bible were the true heroes. Why? Because they rebelled. They sought gnosis, secret knowledge, the flame of inner alchemy. Cain's daughters? Said to be the ones who seduced the sons of God, either the line of Seth or literal fallen angels. And from those unions? Giants, titans, demigods, raw symbols of uncontrolled power. Lilith taught them magic, sensuality, debauchery, not as sin but as sacraments, to cloak the soul in flesh, to awaken the senses as gateways to transcendence. They weren't trying to get back to Eden. They were building a new one with their own rules. This wasn't just rebellion. This was counter-creation. Enoch, the city Cain built, wasn't some cursed ruin. It was a cultural explosion: crafts, trade, music, laws, celebration of the flesh. Early church fathers hated it. They called it a den of sin, a counterfeit Eden. But it was real, it was human, it was ours. St. Augustine said Cain's city was the mirror opposite of Jerusalem, the city of God. Cain's world was earth, flesh, freedom. Jerusalem was heaven, spirit, submission. The line had been drawn, and every ancient city that defied divine law, Babylon, Nineveh, Agade, Sodom, Gomorrah, all trace their spiritual DNA back to Cain, not as a curse, but as legacy. In Lurianic Kabbalah, it gets even wilder. Cain and Abel, not enemies. Complements. Cain is the left arm, Gevurah, judgment, power, the energy of transformation. Abel is the right, chesed, mercy, surrender, transience. The name Abel, Hevel, literally means vapor, breath, vanity. He passes. Cain endures. The Kabbalists even say, in the end, Cain will rise higher than Abel, because Cain contains the divine spark in its active, awakened state, not a son of the devil, but a fragment of God's own left hand. The Mark of Cain. It's not a punishment, it's a threshold. Once you bear it, you walk alone. No safety, no grace, only the flame you build within yourself. But that's the path of power, the path of creation, the path of alchemical transformation. It's not easy. It demands your mind, your body, your soul. But in the end, you don't just learn the rules of reality. You become the one who writes them. Shall we dive into part 4 next? That'll tackle the legends of Cain as a vampire, his links to blood rites and monsters, and how all of it ties into modern occult initiatory systems and the deeper meanings behind sin and carnal experience. Follow the path, and if you dare, you ready to keep walking this path?